Old games were made with special care, where every detail had to be creatively designed to overcome the limitations of their time. Without today's technology, developers relied on striking art direction, well-crafted lighting, and detailed textures that still impress. The result is games that, even years later, remain visually striking and often stand up against modern releases. While many current games depend on raw graphical power, these classics prove that art and attention to detail are just as important as technology. I'm Jax, and if you're new here, welcome to the Play Hunters channel, where I bring daily content to make sure you don't miss any details from the gaming universe. And if you could subscribe to help me grow, I'd really appreciate it, from one gamer to another. To start, we have a game that still impresses with its graphics, featuring a detailed city and realistic lighting effects. Watch Dogs focused on refined textures, reflections on the asphalt, and dynamic weather, which still hold up well today. The illuminated billboards light up the streets, the rain adds a touch of authenticity, and the NPCs react naturally. Small details like clothes moving in the wind make everything feel alive. Even years later, the urban atmosphere remains stunning and immersive. The gameplay blends action and stealth, but the real difference lies in the use of technology. Hacking cameras, manipulating traffic lights, and disabling communications open up various strategies. The chases are intense, with driving mechanics tailored for urban chaos. The combat allows for both direct and stealthy approaches, depending on the situation. Each mission keeps the pace varied, ensuring always unpredictable moments. The story revolves around technological conspiracies and digital surveillance, creating a gripping suspense. The city acts as a strategic board, where every action can have major repercussions. The urban environment is alive, with NPCs reacting to the choices you make. Between investigations and chases, the game builds a tense and dynamic atmosphere. Even after all these years, it's still a great example of how to craft an impressive open world. In second place, we have a game that still wows with its artistic direction and visual richness. BioShock Infinite transports you to a breathtaking floating city, where each scene feels like a moving painting. The dynamic lighting and use of vibrant colors creates striking contrast between the beauty of a utopia and the hidden horrors. The architectural details, inspired by the early 20th century, provide a unique aesthetic. Even after all these years, the atmosphere of this world still stands out with its stunning and memorable visuals. The gameplay combines frenetic combat with special powers, allowing for creative and explosive attacks. The use of sky rails adds speed and verticality to the confrontations, making everything dynamic. The weapons have a realistic impact and work well with the devastating abilities. Each encounter requires strategy, using the environments to surprise enemies. The fast-paced rhythm keeps the battles intense from start to finish. The story delves into complex themes like fanaticism and the distortion of reality, creating unforgettable twists. The city hides dark secrets beneath its perfect facade, and each location reveals new layers of the plot. Small details scattered around the world help to better understand the society and its collapse. The story evolves cleverly, always keeping your attention. It's the type of game that, even after it ends, will have you thinking about it for weeks. Now in third place, we have a game that still impresses with its graphical quality and intense atmosphere. Killzone 2 brought impressive lighting for its time, with realistic shadows and particles that enhance immersion. The environments feature detailed destruction, with explosions that kick up dust and deform the surroundings. The dark color palette reinforces the brutal tone of the war, making each battle even more impactful. Even after so many years, the level of detail remains impressive. The gameplay offers heavy and realistic combat, with weapons that have weight and impact with each shot. The AI is aggressive, forcing you to use cover and strategy to advance. The animations for reloading and movement are fluid, increasing the sense of precise control. The rhythm of the battles keeps the tension constant, with no prolonged moments of relief. Every firefight feels intense and chaotic, keeping everything engaging. The campaign presents a brutal war in a hostile world, where every advance brings new challenges. The oppressive atmosphere is enhanced by the environment design, with devastated ruins and battlefield fields full of debris. The soundtrack amplifies the sense of urgency, making each mission more immersive. The events unfold cinematically, creating memorable moments. Even with the passage of time, it remains one of the most impactful FPS games of its generation. In fourth place, we have a game that impresses with its dark setting and refined graphics. Metro Redux presents a detailed post-apocalyptic world with realistic lighting and weather effects that heighten immersion. Dark tunnels, ruined cities, and intense snowstorms create a sense of isolation and constant danger. The use of light and shadow makes each location eerie, intensifying the tension of the journey. Even after all these years, the graphical fidelity still impresses. The gameplay blends action and survival, requiring caution and resource management. Ammunition is scarce, making every confrontation tense and strategic. The gas mask system adds a unique element, where filters must be changed to keep breathing. The combat is intense, with human enemies and creatures that attack unpredictably. Each encounter can be fatal, encouraging careful exploration and stealth. The story delves into humanity's collapse, showing factions in conflict and hidden dangers in the darkness. The oppressive atmosphere turns every expedition into an uncertain one, where any noise could signal an approaching threat. Small details like NPC conversations and objects scattered around the environments enrich the narrative. The soundtrack and sound design enhance the constant sense of tension. To this day, it's still one of the most immersive games in the genre. Continuing, we have a game that impresses with the realism of its environments and attention to detail. Splinter Cell Blacklist presents sharp textures, dynamic lighting, and shadows that add depth to the settings. The animations are smooth, making stealth movements feel natural and satisfying. Each location visited brings unique elements, from military installations to densely populated cities. The cinematic aesthetic and visual effects still catch the eye, ensuring a high-level presentation. The gameplay focuses on stealth, offering various ways to approach each mission. The mechanics provide freedom, whether eliminating targets unseen or opting for direct combat. The diverse arsenal and technological gadgets create strategic possibilities for each situation. The map design encourages exploration, with multiple paths to achieve objectives. Every choice impacts the mission's outcome, making each operation unique. The narrative involves global threats and covert operations, creating a compelling espionage atmosphere. The plot unfolds tensely, with unpredictable events and decisions that affect the story's course. The interactions between characters reinforce the serious tone of the plot, adding realism to the campaign. The feeling of always being one step ahead of the enemy keeps the tension high. Even within the espionage genre, few games have managed to blend strategy and action so precisely. In sixth place, we have a game that continues to impress with its realism and attention to detail. Max Payne 3 features rich environments, dynamic lighting, and effects that give weight to each action moment. The shootouts are intense, with particles flying through the air and visceral impacts. The realistic physics system makes every shot leave marks, creating a destructible and immersive environment. The game opts for a cinematic style, with smooth transitions and scenes integrated into the gameplay. The gameplay delivers fluid combat and the iconic bullet time, allowing you to slow down time for precise shots. The weight of movements and the response of weapons ensure a satisfying, impactful combat experience. The environment design encourages cover use, making confrontation strategic. Every area is designed to provide intense action with breathtaking sequences. The variety of weapons and the aggressive AI of enemies maintain the challenge at a high level. The story delves into a tense and violent narrative, exploring betrayal, decay, and revenge. The plot unfolds engagingly, alternating between moments of frantic action and more contemplative parts. The dark tone and the construction of dialogues reinforce the game's heavy atmosphere. Small details in the environment help tell the story without needing lengthy explanations. With its raw and cinematic approach, it remains one of the best narrative shooters ever made. Now in seventh place, we have a game that feels like an interactive movie due to how well crafted it is. The Order 1886 delivers graphics that verge on realism, with rich textures and lighting that highlight every detail. The polish of the characters and environments is remarkable, turning every scene into a work of art. Reflections, mist, and light effects create a unique cinematic atmosphere. Even after so long, few games have reached this level of visual fidelity. The gameplay focuses on strategic gunfights, with experimental weapons adding a special touch to combat. The cover system is swift, and the impact of bullets makes every confrontation intense. The movement of characters is fluid, with natural animations that maintain immersion. Between fights, there are moments of investigation and exploration that deepen the setting. The story blends historical elements with fiction, creating an immersive world full of conspiracies. The plot is dense, packed with mysteries and dramatic moments that keep you hooked from start to finish. Each environment tells part of the story through small details and objects scattered around the scenes. The cinematic tone is enhanced by excellent voice acting and realistic facial expressions. Even though it wasn't an absolute success, it is mainly remembered for its graphical quality. In 8th place, we have a game that combines horror and action with an impressive level of detail. Dead Space 2 refined everything from the first game, bringing claustrophobic environments and lighting that enhances the tension. Shadows dance on the walls, while particle and blood effects create an even darker atmosphere. The enemies are grotesque, with realistic animations that make each encounter terrifying. Even with time, it remains one of the most impactful survival horrors. The gameplay balances combat and strategy, requiring precision to deal with threats. The makeshift weapons force creative approaches, focusing on dismembering enemies. The movement is quicker, allowing for swift dodges and greater control in fights. The environments are designed for unpredictable jump scares and brutal ambushes. Every step can be fatal, keeping the tension at its limit. The story delves into psychological terror, exploring conspiracies and hallucinations that affect the perception of reality. Small details in the environments tell stories of despair and survival. The soundtrack and sound design elevate the paranoia, making every noise a potential threat. The game alternates between moments of frantic action and terrifying silences. To this day, it is a reference when it comes to space horror and total immersion. In 9th place, we have a game that raised the bar for realism and immersion in the stealth genre. Metal Gear brought a richly detailed open world with dynamic weather and stunning lighting. The day-night cycle affects gameplay, making each mission unique. The environments vary from arid deserts and military bases to lively battlefields. The attention to detail makes the game remain impressive even years later. The gameplay offers total freedom in how to approach missions. The infiltration mechanics are refined, allowing for realistic interactions with the environment and enemies. The shooting system is precise, and the responsive controls ensure fluid combat or stealth. The world reacts to actions, forcing constant adaptation to avoid more prepared patrols. Every mission becomes a strategic puzzle with no obvious answers. The story takes a fragmented approach, mixing conspiracies and revenge amidst a war setting. Small details reveal layers of the plot without relying on lengthy cutscenes. The espionage and tension-filled atmosphere remain constant, keeping you guessing with every new revelation. The soundtrack and sound design enhance immersion, making every infiltration more intense. Even after all these years, it remains one of the most complete and refined games in the genre. Now in 10th place, we have a game that impresses with its scale and grandeur. God of War 3 brought colossal environments, cinematic lighting, and detailed textures that still stand out. Each setting is built with a sense of immensity, making battles against giant enemies even more impactful. The particle effects, like fire and blood, make the fights visceral and intense. Even today, it continues to be a visual spectacle within the action genre. The gameplay combines brutality and fluidity, allowing for devastating blows and epic combat sequences. The animations during fights are extremely polished, ensuring impact with every attack. The boss battles are memorable, requiring quick reflexes and mastery of the mechanics. The pace of the game keeps the action constant, with platforming and puzzles balancing things out. Everything flows without pauses, making each advance exciting and rewarding. The story delivers an unrelenting revenge journey, filled with epic moments and memorable showdowns. Each environment tells part of the narrative, with visual details that emphasize the scale of destruction. The orchestral soundtrack intensifies the grandeur of the events, making everything even more cinematic. The tone of the narrative remains intense from start to finish, with no time for breaks. It is undoubtedly one of the greatest milestones in the hack and slash genre. Continuing, we have a game that further raised the graphical quality compared to its predecessor. God of War Ascension brought more detailed textures, enhanced lighting, and even smoother animations. The environments are grandiose, with particle effects and destruction that make each battle spectacular. The fluidity of movements and attention to small details impress with every scene. Even when compared to newer games, it still maintains a high-level visual appeal. The gameplay refines combat, making strikes faster and more responsive. The weapon system gained new possibilities, allowing for more dynamic transitions between attacks. The enemies exhibit more varied behaviors, requiring different strategies for each encounter. The puzzles and platforming moments provide variety between intense fights. Everything flows at a quick pace, keeping the action always engaging. The story explores earlier events in the saga, showing different challenges and a more relentless protagonist. The plot unfolds intensely, with cinematic scenes that amplify the grandeur of the journey. The boss battles are epic, blending brutal combat with impactful interactive sequences. The soundtrack remains imposing, adding weight to each decisive moment. Even as a prequel, it preserves the essence of the saga and delivers memorable showdowns. In the 12th position, we have a game that impresses with its visual fidelity and historical recreation. Ryse Son of Rome delivers incredible graphics, with detailed environments, realistic lighting, and flawless animations. The level of detail in the armor, facial expressions, and battlefields is staggering. Each blow reflects the brutality of combat, with visual effects that increase immersion. Even today, it remains one of the most impressive games when it comes to graphic realism. The gameplay focuses on choreographed combat, with a fluid and impactful fighting system. Counterattacks and executions create cinematic sequences, making each battle intense. The game values precision in strikes, requiring rhythm and strategy to face multiple enemies. In addition to direct confrontations, there are tactical command moments that vary the experience. Everything happens dynamically, keeping the action always thrilling. The story dives into revenge and conspiracies, bringing an epic tone worthy of the greatest Roman battles. The plot unfolds in grand environments, from devastated forests to imposing fortresses. Each setting helps tell the story, with details that enhance the immersion in the era. The soundtrack and sound effects heighten the drama of the most intense moments. Even with its focus on action, it maintains a cinematic tone that makes the journey unforgettable. Now in the 13th position, we have a game that impresses with its detailed setting and realistic lighting effects. Dying Light features a rich open world, with devastated cities and nature reclaiming urban space. The day-night cycle transforms the atmosphere, bringing stunning sunsets and terrifying nights. The dynamic lighting creates realistic shadows, increasing immersion during tense moments. Even today, it remains one of the most visually impactful games in the genre. The gameplay blends vertical exploration with intense hand-to-hand combat. The parkour system allows for fluid city traversal, climbing buildings, and jumping between rooftops. The weapons are improvised, requiring creativity to face enemies. At night, threats become more aggressive, forcing changes in approach. The freedom of movement and strategic confrontations make every moment unpredictable. The story delves into a collapsed world, exploring disputes between survivors and hidden secrets. Various missions deepen the plot, bringing moral dilemmas and tough decisions. The environment reacts to actions, making the city feel like a living character within the game. The soundtrack reinforces the tension, especially during nighttime pursuits. It still stands as one of the biggest references in the survival genre. Now, in the 14th position, we have a game that became a benchmark in graphical quality and realism. Crysis revolutionized with its open environments, dense vegetation, and advanced physics effects. The natural lighting, reflections in the water, and detailed textures create an impressive world. Environmental destruction allows trees to be knocked down and structures to explode, further increasing immersion. All of this makes each environment feel alive and dynamic. The special suit allows for switching between strength, speed, camouflage, and resistance. The combat is strategic, encouraging different playstyles. The large map promotes exploration and creativity, without being tied to a linear path. Each confrontation can be solved in various ways, making every game unique. The story centers around an alien invasion, blending science fiction with military action. The plot unfolds on an island full of secrets, with events that change the scale of the conflict. Enemies range from highly trained soldiers to unpredictable extraterrestrial creatures. The soundtrack and sound design enhance the feeling of being in the middle of a battlefield. The game remains a milestone in the evolution of graphics and gameplay in open-world games. In the 15th position, we have a game that impresses with its visual richness and attention to detail. The Witcher 3 presents a vast open world, with breathtaking landscapes and realistic weather changes. The forests are dense, the rivers reflect sunlight, and the cities are full of life. The dynamic lighting changes the setting as the day progresses. Each location feels unique, with a rare level of immersion. The gameplay blends strategic combat with deep exploration and well-crafted missions. The combat system requires mastery of skills and intelligent use of magic and potions. Decisions directly affect the world, changing the fate of characters and entire cities. The map is vast, filled with secrets, hunting contracts, and unexpected encounters. The freedom to explore and follow different paths makes each journey special. The story is engaging and full of twists, with well-written dialogues and memorable characters. The side missions are as well-crafted as the main campaign, bringing impactful narratives. The world reacts to the choices made, creating a feeling of real impact from decisions. The soundtrack and sound design intensify the atmosphere, whether during tense or contemplative moments. The game has become one of the most influential in the genre, setting a new standard for modern RPGs. Now we have a game that impresses with large-scale destruction and a vibrant world. Just Cause 3 features a gigantic tropical island, with stunning landscapes and impressive visual effects. Explosions send debris flying, structures collapse realistically, and fire spreads dynamically. The ocean reflects the sky with incredible details, creating a beautiful contrast with the chaos around. Each region of the island has its own identity, making exploration always interesting. The gameplay is fully focused on freedom, allowing you to create as much destruction as possible. The grapple hook, parachute, and wingsuit ensure fast, acrobatic movement. Weapons range from rocket launchers to creative explosives, encouraging exaggerated approaches. Vehicles like helicopters and jets further expand the chaos possibilities. Every confrontation can be resolved in a different way, always with frenetic action. The story unfolds amidst an oppressive regime, placing you at the heart of a revolution. Main and side missions offer varied challenges, always maintaining the game's exaggerated tone. Charismatic characters and humorous dialogues add a light touch to the narrative. The soundtrack fits perfectly with the action, making each explosion even more impactful. The combination of open world, destruction, and freedom guarantees that the game is endless fun. In the 17th position, we have a game that impresses with its use of lighting and particles in a vibrant world. Infamous Second Son masterfully creates a city, with wet streets reflecting neon lights and detailed buildings. The dynamic weather alters the atmosphere, bringing intense rain and stunning sunsets. Special abilities shine on screen, with visual effects that make each attack spectacular. Everything stays fluid, ensuring an impressive visual impact. The gameplay focuses on dynamic combat and agile movement through the city. The different abilities allow you to explore the environment with speed and style. Battles require strategy to combine powers and avoid enemy attacks. The open map encourages experimentation, offering challenges scattered throughout. The progression brings new possibilities, keeping the action always engaging. The story addresses the conflict between superpowered individuals and an oppressive government. Your choices directly affect the events, bringing real consequences to the world. The characters are well developed, with natural dialogues that enrich the plot. The tone shifts between intense action and more personal moments. The mix of impactful visuals, creative combat, and engaging narrative makes this game unforgettable. Now in the 18th position, we have a game that impresses with its detailed recreation of the French Revolution. Assassin's Creed Unity presents a stunning Paris, with rich architecture, lively crowds, and luxurious interiors. The natural lighting highlights every detail, from busy streets to imposing cathedrals. The level of textures and reflections on surfaces makes everything even more authentic. Whether exploring the city on foot or scaling historic buildings, the visuals remain impressive. The gameplay enhances parkour, making movement smoother and more precise. Combat is more technical, requiring precise timing for attacks and defenses. Weapons range from swords and pistols to hidden blades, allowing for different approaches. The The story delves into the political conspiracies of the time, with betrayals and constant twists. The city reflects the chaos of the revolution, with protests and public executions shaping the environment. Small historical details make the narrative even more engaging. The game suffered from many bugs, but its visual quality and the recreation of Paris are undeniably one of the best historical maps ever created. In the 19th position, we have a game that impresses with its level of detail and dark atmosphere. Batman Arkham Knight recreates Gotham with wet streets, dynamic lighting, and imposing architecture. The rain running down the suit, the neon lights reflecting on the asphalt, and the dense fog create a cinematic vibe. Every alley and skyscraper has been designed with an absurd level of realism. The city feels alive, filled with criminals, patrols, and hidden secrets. The gameplay keeps the combat fluid and adds new tools to the arsenal. The combat system is responsive, allowing quick strikes, precise counters, and brutal finishers. The Batmobile becomes an essential part of the action, bringing intense chases and explosive battles. Movement through buildings remains agile, with improvements to the glider and gadgets. Each confrontation requires strategy, keeping the action always exciting. The story explores psychological and physical threats, pushing the hero to his limit. The plot unfolds with striking twists, exploring the impact of the war on crime. Gotham reacts to events, changing as the narrative progresses. The characters are well developed, bringing intense moments of dialogue and conflict. Without a doubt, it's one of the best games ever made. Continuing, we have a game that marked generations with its artistic beauty and monumental scale. Shadow of the Colossus presents a vast, melancholic world, with imposing landscapes and stunning lighting. Each setting, from open plains to forgotten temples, conveys a unique sense of solitude. The soft mist and light effects create an almost mystical atmosphere. Even without cities or crowds, the world remains visually stunning. The gameplay stands out with its battles against giant colossi, each with its own challenge. Climbing on enemies and searching for weak points requires strategy and patience. The controls reinforce the sense of scale, making each encounter epic. Exploring the world on horseback brings contemplative moments between the battles. The simple mechanics hide a depth that makes each duel memorable. The story is told in a minimalist way, leaving room for interpretation and subtle emotions. The game conveys a journey of sacrifice, with a melancholic tone that grows with each victory. Small environmental details reinforce the sense of mystery and hidden meaning. The soundtrack enters at the right moments, making each confrontation grander. The combination of art, gameplay, and narrative makes this one of the most iconic games ever created. It's one of the games I cherish the most, and I remember being amazed by the graphical quality, both of the enemies and the environments. Tell me, which game left the biggest visual impact on you and holds a special place in your memory? Also, comment on which game you think should have been on this list and which one shouldn't have been included. If you can, please subscribe to the channel to help me grow and never wonder again what to play. I'm leaving 2 videos in the card, one I personally selected for you, and another one that YouTube chose. Just click on either one to watch. A big hug, happy gaming, and see you tomorrow.